Since I've been a bit out of the loop in recent months, I went back and watched a ton of anime from the past few seasons. This led me to finding out that there was a GoHands anime that aired in the winter season of this year, so I sat down and watched it. Scar on the Praeter starts when our protagonist, Yamato Kai, runs into the hero of his city, Eiji Arashaba, and gets caught in between the various groups that fight for the well-being of their home. While this happens, Yamato is unknowingly dragged into an even greater conflict when he takes a bullet for his hero. When Yamato wakes up, he finds Eiji dead, and discovers that he has a Scarred, a divine tattoo that holds unique powers. The plot of the season follows this thread of mystery behind the circumstances of the death of Eiji Arashaba. You get to see the perspectives of the groups involved within the city as they deal with this news, as well as Yamato struggling to fill his predecessor's shoes because of his own guilt. Scar on the Praetor's first episode has quite an impact on the viewer. It has a very strong start, and while it's not the most unique thing in the world, it's something that I could say is a work of art in its own right. I personally felt that this was carried throughout the entire anime, not letting a single moment stray from what made the series stick out in the first place. The strongest parts of the anime is both in its art and action. Every single action scene within the show is really enjoyable to watch, and the beautiful visuals complement it along the way. Some people might get turned off by the amount of CGI within this, but I personally think it looked really good. You'll notice that a majority of the series is done in 3D, but GoHands found the perfect balance between that and the 2D to where you don't really even notice it. For most of the watch time, you'll be following around different perspectives besides our main group. This part of the anime is handled relatively well and does a really good job at balancing the screen time each individual group has. Through this, however, you do notice what I believe to be the worst problem in the series' writing. This is a pretty minor problem, but when put against the other groups, you notice that our main team is lacking some personality, and it's all because of a single character, Kazuma Arashaba. He single-handedly drags down some of the enjoyment that could be had within the series. It's not quite as noticeable within the first couple of episodes. In fact, it makes a lot of sense when you pair it to what's been going on. Towards the middle of the anime, however, is where you actually start to see what I'm talking about. During these episodes, Kazuma comes off as a joke of a character because he feels really one-note. He's supposed to be warming up to Yamato, but he just comes off as a poorly written tsundere. While this could be fine if it was for an episode or two, it really overstays its welcome, as he's like this for most of the series. It ends up making our main group feel really disjointed when you compare it to the other perspectives that we get to see. Because of this, it just makes a decent chunk of the Kazuma scenes feel painful to watch outside of his action scenes. The only saving grace to this is the fact that when Kazuma actually warms up to Yamato, all of those problems disappear as if they never existed in the first place. Before I end this, there is one thing that I find myself a bit conflicted on. While the use of the Scarred in the series is really well done, they don't really explain some things that would better flesh out the writing around their power. You know that the tattoos just will themselves into existence and they can be transferred among consenting parties, but that's all you really know about the power itself. I feel that it's a missed opportunity for the story to barely elaborate on these powers, as they're pretty important to the plot. They're also interesting and clearly had a lot of care written into them, so I feel that it's a shame that they're on the weaker side of my ratings because they could have been handled so much better. Scar on the Praeter is unlike anything I've ever seen by GoHands, and currently I think it's their best anime. I've seen a handful of reviews saying that it shamelessly copied their previous works, but that's just not the case. While there are a few similarities to the K project here and there, all those are really surface level observations to be made. I just feel that it's really insulting to both works when you compare them like that because they're really not that similar. Anyways, I hope that more people watch this anime eventually. I feel like people these days just tend to overlook GoHands' works because they're still angry that Handshakers and Ys were made. Scar on the Praeter doesn't even have any noticeable technical problems, so I don't really understand why people have been shying away from this one. Even if you were someone that hated those series, I know you'd be able to enjoy this one because it doesn't have many things that I could see as a reason to not watch it. I highly recommend that you check this anime out if you have the time. It is well worth watching, and I hope you'll join me in spreading the word of another great GoHands anime.